Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Sunday service. I am so grateful to be a part of this community. I just want to say a big thanks to everyone that brings these Sunday services in this virtual connection every Sunday. I am in awe and in deep gratitude. Today's Sunday sermon is From Knowledge to Wisdom. And today I'm going to bring a story about Moses and, of course, Ernest Holmes. But first, what I'd like to start with is Corinthians 12:8. For to one is given the word of wisdom through the Spirit, and to answer the word of knowledge according to the same Spirit. Next, I would like to bring Genesis. The Lord before whom I walk will send his angel with you and make your way successful. I'd like to start out this story by just reconnecting with the story of Moses. So Moses was born during a time where there was great fear. And during his birth, his mother was in great fear for his life. So she gave him up to be raised by a very prominent household, which was the Pharaoh's household. Now, you could say that the hardship of the mother was extremely hard to give up a child at this time, and as a mom, it's really difficult for me to hear how that could happen, and yet sometimes it needs to. This was Moses's path. So Moses's path was to be raised by the Pharaoh and to live a life of privilege and learning. So he was taught, of course, to want nothing. There was luxury and wealth in his household. He was also taught mathematics, how to read, how to write, really expanding his cognitive experiences of the world. So behind all that, Moses always had this feeling and this fear that he didn't belong. And so he proved himself over and over again to prove to Pharaoh and the family and everyone around that he was supposed to be there, and he was to be in this family. But underneath that, there was the Moses that held on to the fear that his family would turn on him. So that came to pass, as we all know, the story of Moses. When he became full grown, he became distressed as to how the slaves were being treated. So he lived this life of luxury, and he should have been very happy. And yet there was this unease within his heart on how his fellow human beings were being treated. So Moses rised up and said this is not okay in a couple of ways for his family, and it angered the family, and it angered the Pharaoh. It angered him so much that Moses was in fear of his life. So he ran away. He ran away out into the desert. And if we recognize what the meaning of the desert is a place where we hold ourselves separate. We refrain from body nourishment, mind nourishment, and spiritual nourishment. So Moses is coming from this place of luxury and knowing that he didn't quite fit in, and he allowed his fear to move him to run away. And so what happened was Moses ran away to the desert, and he became a part of a tribe And the leader of the tribe, a herdsman, happened to be a holy man. So here Moses leaves a place of not knowing his connection into a family and a tribe that practice their connection to their God every day in prayer. So Moses was there in the desert with this tribe, and he was very quiet. He didn't let anybody know who he was, that he was a learned man. They all thought he was just a simpleton. Now, there were many things that he knew how to help the tribe with, and that was part of the mathematics knowledge that he learned. So he found a place for himself. So, for 40 years, Moses lived right under a holy mountain, and everybody called it the Mountain of God, even though he didn't believe in God, and yet there was God waiting for him for his whole life. So here, his path has taken him from not fitting in, fear, and having the questions of who is God and who am I? So it is stated that Moses stayed there for 40 years in the desert with these questions, who am I? But holding on tight to his fear until he couldn't ignore it anymore. He heard the voice and the calling. From that mountain of God, there was a voice that said, Moses, come to me. Moses could no longer ignore it. Who am I? Where do I fit in? So he took his own vision quest up into this holy mountain. And there he stayed for 40 days and 40 nights. So it is written. It might have taken longer. It doesn't matter the time. What matters is the learning of self that Moses was able to embrace. Now, of course, up in the mountain, Moses had to face his fears that he wasn't worthy. He was a fraud. He was unlovable. And yet, there he sat on the mountain, communing with God, his own vision quest, where God was saying, I see you. You are the God presence. And he stayed until he can know that for himself. Now, when he was leaving the mountain, and God gave him some assignments, commandments, if you would, a sacred container from which to build the sacred knowledge of how to be free of slavery. He traveled down that mountain, not fully sure of himself, but knowing that wherever he was, God was. He was not perfect, and yet this knowledge added to his practice of daily connection, of daily recognition that he wasn't out there alone. Now, of course, you know the story goes on that he returns to the city where a family has enslaved other people. And he went to them actually to prove the point, to love thy neighbor as thyself, to treat thy neighbor as thyself, to not only free the Hebrews, but also to free the Pharaoh's family and from their own enslavement of fear, of lack, of fear of not being worthy. So he, Moses, was there on that mission of God to be the reflection And each time that he asked him to see, he was actually showing his own demons and his own fears. And how each day he steps through the revealing of his fears, where God has showed him that he is still part of the oneness, no matter his faults. He was asking for humanity to change and to be in that place of a loving compassion. We recognize this place of fear. Every day in our lives, we all have the seeking. We are all asking to be embraced and return to God's love. And in Luke 11:13, if then your whole body is full of light, with no part of it in darkness, it will be as full of light as when a lamp gives you light with its rays. The experience and the story of Moses goes on. But what he held was the light of belief and faith, from knowledge to wisdom. The wisdom was the practice. It doesn't mean that he was automatically that holy man. We all have our steps upon our path. And as I'm sure that you have heard, that the furthest distance for humans to walk is from head to heart. From knowledge to wisdom. When we take a moment to recognize our connections to this great knowing from the mountain of God, we cannot help but feel our bodies become lighter, our path to be lit up as a knowing. We release all self-judgments and fear that we are not enough or that we will screw it up in some way. Moses felt the same way. And yet, he just took one more step to recognize that all that he has been, from knowledge to wisdom, is just one more step. Now here in our New Thought community in Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes' whole life was about seeking knowledge to wisdom. He wanted to experience that place of the heart and that place of the knowing, that place of connection. He studied many philosophers to have an understanding what they saw in their knowledge to wisdom. And so he wrote it down for us. So we take these steps in our treatments, our 5-step treatment plans, and in our declarations of principles. So if we can utilize just 1 or 2 principles per day, we are on the same path as Moses right now to create our freedom of our experiences, creating them into wisdom. I'd like to go over some of our declaration of principles. That we believe in the unity of life and that the highest God and our innermost God is one God. This statement is exactly what Moses was feeling. This statement is exactly what Moses was given, to be given away to others. We believe this one manifests itself in and through all creation, but it is not absorbed by its creation. We are all sacred beings. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. We believe the manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. Moses on the mountain invited us to the mountain to know our worth, to know our light, to know ourselves as love. We believe in the incarnation of Spirit within and all incarnation of the one Spirit. He went to express to two different types of people, the Pharaoh and those that were enslaved, that they were that one Spirit. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul forever and ever expanding. This longest path from mind to heart, knowledge to wisdom, is the wisdom that we carry back to the mind in our everyday steps. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of love to all. This experience of oneness is within all of us, even and especially in our darkest moments. For we are never alone. We have simply to say yes. The great I am. There are many ways that I like to connect, but I'd like to give you two examples. One is breathing. It's the most sacred moment that we take that one breath of light. I have a practice of breathing in at 7, holding 7, and breathing out at 7. And it immediately brings me to this very sacred place of grounding and to right now, instead of out to what could happen or what has happened from behind me. I invite you to try it. One other practice is tapping. Right here at the thymus and over the heart, you just tap. You breathe in and you let go. I am peaceful. I am peaceful. I am peaceful. In these times of great change, be in this moment and your connection with the divine that is always flowing from knowledge to wisdom. And in conclusion, I'd like to leave you with a quote from Lynn Twist, who is a co-founder of Pachamama Alliance. As a species, we are no longer the subject of the evolutionary process. We have become the authors of it. Aho, Ashe, and so it is. Namaste. Thank you for this opportunity to connect, to see you as God's light, God's love. Namaste. Peace be upon you.